Hi, everyone. I am Heather, and thank you for joining us for another Homeschool Live. Today, we will be hearing from Sharon Jeffus with Visual Manna. And I just wanted to let everyone know that we are having a little technical difficulty. So if there is a delay, or if it sounds like we are talking over each other, we are trying our best to make sure that we will not do that. And there's just a slight delay between each of us speaking. I would love if you could please share this video with your friends, post it in any homeschool groups that you are in. And as always, leave comments and questions for Sharon throughout the interview, and we will get to those at the end. And now I would like to introduce Sharon Jeffus. Sharon uses art to reinforce core subjects for visual and kinesthetic learners. She is the author of over 20 books on art education, and she's going to talk about the importance of the visual arts and art therapy and in the society that we're living in today. Thank you so much for joining me today, Sharon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Well, I am so excited. I think what you do is wonderful.
I think I'm going to talk a little bit about vision. Thank you. Thank you. Back long ago in 1992 is when I wrote my first big curriculum, way long ago. And my husband and I traveled all over the country and taught homeschoolers, the Air Force Academy, just everywhere, sharing art. And because it's one area that I think is particularly difficult for many times for homeschoolers to cover. I mean, a lot of mothers don't feel adequate to teach it, and there aren't a lot of teachers available in many cases, and you don't even know if the teachers that you're having are going to be good and can you trust them. And I was, of course, the public school arts and then Christian schools and homeschools, and so the Lord has allowed me to be able to teach art in many different venues, and it's been such a privilege. My husband and I started the company long ago, and then my husband was also a family therapist and an artist, so he was really terrific, and he loved art, and he actually built life-size dinosaurs. And he knew Buddy, the guy who does the creation stuff, and he actually he had an accident, and the Lord took him home, and so he never really got to do a lot of that. But I think that his passion was that young people would be able to have art that needed it, because it's so important today. And it's such a way to uplift and encourage. And in the society we live in, we certainly need that. And I wanted to talk about, again, Visual Manna has always tried to use art to reinforce core subjects. And if you think about it, when you're learning something, it's like baking a cake. This is a very easy illustration. When you read it in a textbook, you just read the words. How much do you remember? When you read it and you look at a picture, how much do you remember? When you read it and you actually do it, then you can really remember a lot. But when you actually teach it, you remember 90%. It's like 70% when you actually do it, you can remember 90% when you teach it. So actually, when I even homeschooled, there were some of the core subjects, like I remember with my boys, I would have them make the whole solar system and do solar system calendars. And then we'd have some homeschool families over, and they did a teaching thing where they had an opportunity to teach it. So, when you teach the core subjects, and you can incorporate the fun of making things, kids, they love to be creative. And creativity, I always say science and art are so close together. And there's many different quotes about that because, science, when you do an experiment, you have a result. But in art, kids have an opportunity to come up with different fresh new ideas and come up with something original. And in the homeschool day, many times they don't get an opportunity to be creative because there's only one right answer, a history date, a math problem, a grammatical problem. There's only one right answer. But when you do art, you have, different ways to get it right, to be original, to be encouraged. So, I just think we've always felt like it's a very, very important thing, and wanted to share that with homeschool families. So, and that's
I
a little
love that.
bit,
I love the way that you approach it because it's making the light bulbs go off in my head, like thinking, okay, I want to do that in every single subject so my kids can remember it. I want to incorporate the
Yeah.
hands on activities. So, is that something you do in your Visual Manna curriculum? Is it a
Oh,
curriculum that,
definitely. Yes, and absolutely. Kids can remember, and you can't save pictures of everything that you can take photographs. Today's the wonderful thing is, if they build some gigantic, arc, or I used to get scraps all the time and let them build things and take things apart, get garage sale stuff, photograph it, get rid of it because you can't save everything you want to, but you can't save
yes.
everything that they do. But the important thing I think is it makes learning more fun.
Mhm.
And when you have a young person that's particularly gifted in art, it's very much a lifeblood. And I think that parents have a conundrum because, they understand the importance of making a living, and that, the math and the science, these are very, very important subjects. And so they have to focus on that. And when you have these children that are very gifted in art, when art is communication, I mean, and the gospel, especially when, we were looking at some pictures just yesterday of the Renaissance, and people didn't read and
Mm.
write. So they had these beautiful
Wow.
triptychs that they would carry from church to church that expressed the Bible, and that
Wow.
people would look visually and then they would see this. And so, when you think about being able, and I just yesterday, I was in downtown Kansas City and I saw a mural that was horrendous. I thought, oh my word, because you can put things up that are uplifting and that are exciting, and gospel message, and murals
Wow.
and things that are encouraging, and just allowing kids to do that opportunity to do that is so very, very important. And one of the things that I decided to do is I traveled around for the Landry Academy for a couple years and developed an art intensive that was high school based, but it was with, they checked it out with several different states, and it's just the materials. And I thought, well, I'm going to offer it inexpensively enough that
Mm.
parents can afford it. These kids can actually afford it online. It isn't, the supplies. I don't have to worry about all that. So I'm just offering it so that young people can take it, and
Yeah.
hopefully there's with the lessons, like, you have the elements and principles of art and you have the masterworks, but I've tried to incorporate projects that you can actually share the gospel with and teach, which would
Wow.
be such a great thing. And
That's
I
incredible.
just I just think it's going to be, I'm offering it for just $25 for the course, and hopefully I'm going to get enough young people that can do it. Now, I do have other things like internships and camps and stuff, but I think that this art intensive is going to be something that will be available that all homeschool families can afford. And that
Wow.
way, if they have a child that's gifted, it'll take time, and I'm offering it for a week where, they're going to get the course, the books and the materials so they can cover the materials. But
Right.
then they have during the day, and the classes will be recorded. And then the second week is just going to be one-on-one if they need help with their portfolio, putting a digital
Wow.
portfolio together, because there's so many different ways now that art can be utilized for careers. And, I always
Yes.
tell kids, drawing and painting is art that you look at, sculpture is art that you walk around, architecture is art you walk through,
Yes.
fashion design is art that you wear. All of this has been, developed by visual artists. And
Yes.
there's ways that if you have a child that's, say, an auditory learner, there's a different approach. But if you have children that are primarily visual and kinesthetic learners, and most children respond very well to this, the more you can incorporate art into the homeschool experience, the better. And going to an art museum, and I know I have the philosophy is I don't introduce nudity to children because that's
Mm.
their parents can, if that's their thing. But you can look at the Pieta by David, or you can also by Michelangelo, or, there's always choices that you can have where you can
Right.
show the masterwork of art. And when you go to a museum, it's so wonderful for young people to be able to see uh, what they're learning, which is learning how to do atmospheric perspective, learning techniques in media, and being able to see the masters and how they incorporated it and understand the idea that it's all, you know, they need to do it in their own style. After they're
Right.
studying this,
Yes.
they're learning the media, they're learning the techniques, then it needs to be by them. It doesn't need to
Yes.
be, they need, that's that originality that makes it so
Hmm.
special,
Yes,
and
it's true. That's a really good point. My husband, he appreciates knife work and people that create knives. And he said that if there's a certain name that is attributed to a certain knife, that will be, thousands of dollars, but it could
oh,
maybe a similar knife wouldn't be not worth as much. But because if you make that name, if you have that little creative spin that's your name, you know,
yes.
make a lot of money. But not only that, you can put your artistic expression into it. And like, I love how you're talking about ministry, and I would love to really expound on that because there are so many ministry opportunities with art. Absolutely. You
Oh,
mentioned
absolutely.
murals.
And one of the things I want to show is like when you do like butterflies, and you're teaching symmetry and you're teaching informal and formal balance, but you're also teaching born again, and to be able to, I did some butterflies with my students, but a butterfly is such a simple thing to do, and to be able to share the gospel or the cross in perspective, 1 point perspective. But the kids can do the art and they can understand. And kids mostly love art. And it's a time of really fun and being able to share things,
Right.
and I think I'm hoping I have some young people going out the 20th that we're going to prepare kits for them to take and just, sit down with young people and do the art. And it's just a fun time of talking and sharing, and it can be used in so many different ways. And um, sharing the gospel, of course, is I loaded some pictures of we were asked to do murals. The one place, well, that is City Union Mission, and it's a place for the homeless in Kansas City, and it's very, very depressing and very boring. So we could go to the next one. There's two I wanted to show you that. So my students and I, we did the berry patch. They get an opportunity to do actual, for people that'll pay them, to do artwork. And but the next one, see, I think let's try. Oh, yeah. A couple of my students, we did murals at the City Union Mission, and it was just like a prison, they said, and they wanted us to put some murals
Mm.
up. And they said that some of the people actually wanted to camp out. Right there where the murals were, because of course they're downtown, they don't get to see any of
Aw.
the beautiful nature and everything.
Right.
So we were able to put a bunch of
Aw.
pictures of nature up, and then I think I have other ones that. So what I'd like the students to learn is that, and this we did at this is for refugees in St. Louis, and
Wow.
so we did murals for them to be able to put up, and it was just a really great experience. Georgia, who went on to get the bottom one, to actually get a scholarship in filmmaking. She did that piece, and we looked at it, and somebody said, "Well, that's the word agape too," and she didn't even know she did it, and was like, "Wow!"
Wow.
And the guy had just offered. They provide places for people that are become Christians that meant, they need a place to go, and they provide a really wonderful opportunity to learn English and provide places for them to live and to stay and everything. So that's the kind of thing that we actually try to actually go and share. And what I'd like them is to get trained enough that they could do it without me, because I always tell the
Right.
kids, I'm quite old, over the big 7-0, you know. And so I really want young people that they've got the energy, and that if they love art, they can go out there and they can share, and they have the energy to do it. Young people can speak to young people. So I think the idea of training them is just where I think where the Lord wants me to be right now.
I love that. I would love if you could explain how you go about training. So you work with Landry Academy, and then you have this
Yeah,
$25, which is normally
yeah,
$250 intensive. How does that work? It's all
right.
online, or do you meet in person?
Well, yeah, what we would do is we start out and do projects that focus on it's very important that students learn cohesively the elements and principles of art. Because, with art, you have a drop here, drop there, here, there, and it's just a conglomerate. And if you're very talented, you go, oh, that person's got talent, but people make a living knowing how to bring it together and knowing the elements and principles of art. So we start out and we do projects that would be like line. How do you learn that? And projects that line, space, texture, and look at the master artist and then create something original around each one of those elements and principles of art. And of course, you've got movement, creating movement, how to do that. Seascapes, wind in art. What does that look like? How do I do that in different techniques? Watercolor, acrylic, mixed media. Some of the best artists in America. Few people know that Audubon actually did watercolor and pastel.
Hmm.
He tried to do a watercolor of his young wife. He didn't like it. He put pastel on it. So mixed media can be a very
Wow.
good media for a lot of people, but they need to experience it so they can understand maybe this is what I want to do. Maybe this is what I want to work with. So the idea is to bring them through the elements and the principles of art, teaching different techniques in media and having projects that they can use in their digital portfolio and that they can share and that they
Wow.
can, and what I want is originality because, you can teach the very basics and, but when you get a student that can come up with an original idea
Mhm.
that, like your husband said, that's worth and copyright it, that's intellectual property. That's
Right.
ownership. I try to, this is just like what you own, and you can
Yeah.
market this and you can print it. And this idea can have a profound influence on many people. And I tell the story, this is pretty old, but a young man did a picture for Living Epistles t-shirts a long time ago. And it was like the cross with a little sign, gone to see my dad, it was so adorable. Well, of course, gone in when he with a cross. And so it became very, very popular and he was able to make money. I try to tell the students when you go to a Hobby Lobby, artists came up with those original ideas first. And so they can market their things. And how do I market this? When I go to college, what is that? Do I want to go to an art school? Do I want to go to a university? What would be the best schools for me to do it if I wanted to do that? Or some of the best artists that I've ever known never went to school ever. I mean,
Wow.
David Plank, who's one of the most famous bird artists. He gets several thousand at least for his work, never went to college, and he is a profound bird artist. He does birds and he's in the Springfield Museum and he's just a delightful, delightful gentleman. And I think he looks a little bit, I say it like a bird, I mean, it's just so amazing. He
Uh-huh.
reminds me of if Audubon was alive, what Audubon would have been like. But he's
Wow.
Michael Helm is another one. He went to be with the Lord and he was
Mm.
very passionate about art and he just studied it and was always doing it and became very, very good and never went to school and did Tony the Tiger, some of the
Wow.
Budweiser Lizards and Frogs, worked very high end things. And he never had
Mm.
any training, but it's like anything else. You have to be passionate about it. You have to get together a very good portfolio and then you want to be in shows and but there's things that you can do when you have that talent and you just feel like it's like God gives gifts to certain people. Beziel was commanded to beautify the temple. I don't have the verse right off the top of my head, but if you look up Beziel, so if you have a student that you feel is very gifted, it's a gift from God, and that gift in art can be utilized in many, many ways. I tell this story. I've told this several times, but there was a lovely article about a lady that her well, she tells the story about her daughter. Her daughter worked with severely handicapped children in art and was very, very successful. And they were having a big meeting for her. And she she said she talked about her daughter, and she said, I'm going to get the credit for this because when my daughter was about 3, I had this wonderful Da Vinci book, and she took orange crayon and she just colored. I had it at a coffee table, and oh
Oh
no! So
no.
she put it in her toy room with her toys, and every once in a while they'd bring the book out and they'd look at the Mona Lisa, and she ended up just loving art and really looking at the book. And her mother said, I will take some credit because I did give her her first art book inadvertently. I didn't want to, but so teaching young preschoolers, discussing great master works of art with them. And I just developed these tea parties, and that's another thing I can talk about, and I wanted to offer them very reasonably as well. But they're tea parties, and we could go to that. I think I have a picture of that, online tea parties. And what I discovered is that you can talk about, like, Tea by the Sea by Winslow Homer, and you can show the great masterworks of art that Winslow Homer did and have really fun activities with a theme like that. Like if you take a real heavy paper plate, you can actually make an awesome uh, uh, porthole, and do a porthole and show and teach warm colors, which would be a sunset, and cool colors. Or you could take there's artists that are if you go the Mad Hatter, of course, everybody knows about Alice in Wonderland, but Arthur Rhytham and was an artist that illustrated it. And there's artists with all of these, with each of the tea parties. We have a Narnia tea party, and Waterhouse is amazing. Yeah, it's only $5. It's online, but I give you a list of what you need, so I don't have to worry about supplies. Because if I couldn't ever do it for that, but I know that parents can get together the supplies, and it has a lot of really fun activities that you can do. Yeah, art is just so important and so fun. And because we live in very difficult times, it's a way to add joy and fun, to teaching. Like when you, but like Rousseau, we have a jungle art tea party and talk about the Jungle Book. Of course, that's literature. And you have the fun
I
music
love that.
and Monet, an art garden tea party. And there's actually the Symphony of Flowers and really cool projects that you can do if you just have the tissue paper, etc. But we scheduled them in. So if you write to that email right there, you can just go ahead and schedule it in, and you get the book when you do
Oh
it.
wow.
And
Perfect.
as I said, I just Cassidy, I just have to give Cassidy. She was a missionary for 2 years in actually Romania, working with the gypsies, and she got the idea of
Wow.
so many people can afford it if it's less money, including people from different countries. Even as missionaries, they were offered some classes, and because it was so reasonable, more people could afford it. And that's just today, with everything going up in price and everything, art is so needed more than ever before, I think, because it is a fun thing to do. And the tea parties incorporate literature and art, and there's in each of the tea parties, there's a witnessing picture, a masterwork of art. Like in Winslow Homer, there's a picture called the Lifeline, and he's
Wow.
it's the lifeline, and like Christ is our lifeline. And in there's the harvest, and when you look at Rousseau and the Jungle Art Workshop, there's the harvest, and of course, there's with each of the tea parties, there's several works of art, but there's one that gives you an opportunity to witness. So you're learning great, literature and music and art, and also an opportunity to witness for the Lord as well. So, and then I hope people will take these out and that they can use them, so I
That
get
is
pretty emotional about it
beautiful.
because my heart is, to really be able to do this. As I'm getting older, I feel like these really need to be used, especially in the time that we're living in right now. So I
Well,
hope that
as a homeschooling mom, I appreciate you putting it out there, and I see your heart, and I see that this is a
it,
ministry effort. And
it really
um,
is.
And I want to say, for those of you tuning in, we are talking with Sharon Jeffus about her visual manna. And one thing I haven't told you, Sharon, is several years ago, my kids, when they were younger, two of my boys took one of your classes at a homeschool conference. It was just a
Oh,
3-hour class, but you taught them how to draw lions, and they came back and they had this beautiful artwork on of a lion. And I'm thinking, how did they learn how to do that in just one class? But you had such a gift, and my kids definitely, my oldest son definitely loves art, and
oh, thank
we
you
had
so
that
much.
hanging up in our homeschool room for years because they were just so proud of that piece of art that they did. So I see these
Yeah,
classes that Sharon that you offer, and I just want our viewers to know that she just absolutely has a passion for homeschoolers, and by offering a class, this tea party, for only $5, you can't get that anywhere. So take
yeah,
advantage of this because this is an opportunity not only for your children to learn, but if that is a calling that God has for them, then they can absolutely
right.
grow in this and use it. And I love that you're putting these murals in different places where it's
One of
just
my
absolutely
students
needed.
did this behind me. It's a hobbit house. It's a real big one. We're gonna put it somewhere.
Oh,
So,
aw.
yeah, and I do have an internship. I have internships where if you have a student that is high school or wanting to really maybe spend a couple weeks just doing int art intensive, where you're creating things for your portfolio to get it together, I can talk with you about that. And so, but the first step would be to, I think, take this art intensive, so,
Yes,
but thank you so
absolutely.
much. And
I'm going to put this information up again, just so our viewers can see this. So the best way to contact you, Sharon, would be through this email, or they can text you or call you. Is that correct on this number?
oh, yes, absolutely. And if you have questions, I can actually Zoom with you with the questions if you'd like to do that. And I think we have an email on there. Yeah, if you want to schedule it, and my email's on there. And as I said, this was an art intensive that I had developed for the Landry Academy. It's very comprehensive, and it brings art together. It isn't all scattered. It's a way to teach it that's very cohesive with the elements and principles of art and the art history and the techniques in media. And it's a
Right.
way to get it where you can go on and really learn a lot.
Well, this is wonderful.
So,
I am so
well, thank you
excited to
very
offer this.
much
Well,
for
thank you
the
so much,
interview.
Sharon. Thank you for joining us. I'm just so
Okay.
excited to offer this to everybody.
Thank
And
you.
thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. And make sure that you tune in for another Homeschool Live. We have several more coming up. And if you are
Thank
new to
you.
homeschooling, then make sure you check out tryhomeschooling.com. And if you're looking for a curriculum site, please check out schoolhouseteachers.com. And we will see you next time on another Homeschool Live. Thank you so much.